Welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing something I never willingly do, and that is take my Corvette when it's raining outside. So let's see how this goes. Alright, so if you're new to my channel, I bought a 2004 Corvette Z06, which is a C5 Z06, for what is considered to be a bargain performance car. And my intent with this was to try to get into more high-performance driving and racing events, specifically starting with autocross events that are hosted near me. And one of the first things I did in a prior episode linked below was replace the old tires that were worn out with these new Hankook Ventus RS4s, which are a 200 treadwear tire, which is an extremely grippy tire. Then I took the car out and tested the traction limits of these new tires on the dry pavement to see how they did.
See how we do here.
Now, for anyone not familiar, Autocross has different classes that limit your car's performance. That way every car is on the same playing field and relatively competitive. So for the class that I'm going to be running in, a 200 treadwear tire is the grippiest one that you are allowed to get. However, this is a high performance car. It does have a lot of horsepower, and this is a high performance summer tire, which means it really likes the heat of hot summer days. And while I've gotten caught in the rain in this car before with the prior tires, I have not yet taken it out in the rain with these new tires. And there's really two reasons that I'm doing this. Number one is that the SUV I drive every day is currently at the shop, so I don't have an option and I need to get places. And number two, when you're trying to book a track event, typically you have to do it pretty far in advance to make sure that you actually get a spot. Otherwise, as I found out with the last event I registered for, you can get waitlisted and not actually admitted to the event. But the problem is, if you book it really far in advance, you don't know that you're going to get good weather, and I've got to figure out whether or not this car is actually drivable in these conditions, because quite frankly, a lot of these really high performance tires lose a lot of grip very quickly the second that they're on a wet surface. My bigger fear is I want to be able to do this safely on a racetrack, even in wet conditions, without putting myself or this car at risk. Should something happen to the car, even if I was okay, I could potentially lose the full value of this vehicle if it happened to get wrecked. But my other option would be skipping the event entirely, which means I would immediately lose out on the hundreds of dollars that I would have had to pay to attend. So this is my entry-level test to make sure that I'm not completely insane for driving this thing in the rain.
I have my new tires on, and I've never driven these in the wet yet. These are 200 treadwear tires. These are definitely meant for track driving. Instead, we're gonna find out how they grip in the wet. I'm gonna roll into it a little bit here. Lights up all of first. Oh, it'll light up second at about 3,000 RPM. Now you can see it's not a full-blown rain, it's just a little bit of a sprinkle at this point. The roads are still damp, so trying my wipers. They seem unmotivated to move, and I'm not gonna say that they'll be the most helpful in the event that it's actually raining. I was caught in the rain with this car once coming back from a track event. Visibility was also not good because it was at night, but this thing did not exactly do the best in those scenarios. I obviously hear a little bit more getting kicked up, partially because the tires in general are just louder than the factory tires. They're more grippy, they grab more things off the road, but partially because it's actively wet, so all that little sediment and stuff gets washed up, some gets washed onto the road, and then in some of the areas that are less dry, you're also kicking up the moisture itself, and those water droplets at whatever speed we're going, 65, we're going precisely 65. At these speeds, those water droplets have enough velocity to make a decent amount of racket when they bounce off of stuff. But overall, in these damp conditions, we're doing pretty good. I obviously can't put the power down in the first few gears. That's an issue in general in this car when it's dry out as well. So that's not a surprise at all, but I think it's manageable. So we should be able to rip this thing pretty good. All right, are we clear? Are we clear? Are we clear? Launching. With current gas prices, that was probably like a $12 pull. That's quick enough. It's not Viper fast, but it's quick enough. It's a lot more sketchy at the same speeds though, I gotta say. If you just ignore the fact that it's extremely expensive to have fun in a car right now, then you can still enjoy it a little bit. Oh, pushing the grip a little bit here. Painted line is sketchy to hit in the wet. Oh yeah, that was not comfortable. That was a little nerve-wracking. It's a little fun, but also just quite sketchy. Ooh, that's a stop sign. That was not visible 100 feet ago. That's a wet spot. Oh, lordy, that slipped. And a Corolla in the way. Oh, these are very GM brakes. massive sporty tires like this, and you do get stuck, not even in the rain, but just in the wet, be a lot more conscientious of how much lower your grip level is. Now, one of the reasons I chose this tire specifically is I don't have the kind of funds to run a bunch of different designated tires, and supposedly this one does really well in the rain. Now, it is just starting to pour now, courtesy of this storm being just north of where I was. So now we are going to test how this does at actual rain driving. Now, I thought earlier that these wipers were going to be atrocious, and they did seem to be that way when it was sprinkling out, but I think the surface was actually too dry, so it was skipping along the surface and missing spots. Now that it's actually raining, these things are doing pretty good, which is not something I thought I would say. Holy crap, it just started coming down. But to be honest, this thing is handling fine. It's not wandering all over the road. It's not tracking horribly. It doesn't feel like it's hydroplaning. A lot of other performance cars I've driven, especially on really grippy tires, they start lighting up tires in 4th gear. Grip's fine in 5th. I'm not going to test 4th right now because I'm not that crazy. Oh, it's a wet corner. Oh, I did not like holding that corner. That's a little sketchy. Especially because that's an off-camber corner with a bunch of little potholes in the middle that really upset your suspension. Now, it still held the grip. It was still like a gradual release where it wanted to start to slide, and it was still communicative of that, but that was a little unsettling. This is a crest, off-camber, sharp right. Oh yeah, a little bit of a lurch there. I don't know if the camera's going to stabilize that out. But that's good. I would say our science experiment is a success, and with this irrefutable data, we can now conclude that I don't necessarily need to cancel a track day if it is going to be wet. Now, that's always one of my biggest concerns about booking a track day, is that if it rains, my insurance is not valid on a racetrack. Most insurance policies are not. So if it rains, that threshold for you making a mistake gets a lot lower. It is easier to crash your car. It is easier to total it out at track speeds. There's a cop right there. I can't do anything stupid. No cops. 2nd gear, 30. Oh, that actually grips. That like straight hooked. Oh, that's dangerous. But there you have it. We have a conclusive test of precisely one data point that shows that even though the grip level is lower, the car is drivable in the rain. Now, what this means is that from a track day perspective, that's really what I'm worried about. My biggest fear has always been if I book a track day, if it starts to get wet or the forecast doesn't look good, do I need to cancel it, and what is the cancellation policy? And usually you can only cancel so far in advance, and the reason being they know people are going to check the weather and cancel, and they don't want to lose that money, right? They are a business, they do need money to operate. But my concern is, can I safely operate my vehicle with my level of driving skill or lack thereof in wet or rainy conditions? Now, generally, if it's a downpour and it's too wet, they will cancel the event, but damp conditions, they will hold it, especially depending on the club that you run with. And that's important because for me, I cannot financially eat the cost of a track day if I schedule one and then it starts to rain and then I no longer feel like I want to attend. But also, if I wreck the car and I do have an incident, my insurance does not cover me on a racetrack. Most policies don't. You got to check with your insurance company on that. You can buy specific track day insurance, but it's like a couple $100s per event. It literally doubles my operating cost, and then I can't do as many track events because I'm spending so much on insurance. It just makes my hobby a little economically unfeasible. But now that we know it's feasible, as long as you're semi-conscientious of the grip levels changing, I'm a lot more confident. I did not think I would say this. This is, with these tires, a lot better and a lot more comfortable than I ever imagined it could have been in these kind of driving conditions. Part of that is because these tires are new. I want to make that clear. This has as much tread depth as you can physically get on this tire because they are brand new. They have less than 400 miles on them at this point. And while I wouldn't necessarily make this my car of choice for driving conditions like this, the point is, if you have one car available to you, like this is your only car, your daily driver, or if you have a daily driver and it's in the shop like mine is right now and you're forced to drive this vehicle, it's doable. And in this case, doable is all that matters. There is one serious con to the rain driving, especially because I wrapped this in matte white. Yeah, I've got a little
No, gross. The good news is, because this is a wrap, I mean, none of that is grime getting into the paint, but if you're not wrapped, just be aware of that. That's pretty grouty. All right, here is the next day after driving the Corvette in the rain. The front end is not terribly, terribly dirty, which is a surprise, because if you look down the side here, this thing got blasted, absolutely blasted by dirt the whole way down. So this is now very much due for a bath, and I've got another project going on in the background. That's why you see everything covered here, but rotating around to the back, this is just filthy, filthy, filthy. And all that was one trip in the rain. It was about 16 miles round trip. About 7 of those miles were actually in wet or rainy conditions. Granted, that was the last 7 miles, but this was still the result of that. But anyhow, that is all I got for this episode. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.